And right now we have Kim Conway, and Kim is a soul channel where's her bio? Today she's got a really good topic. And I'm really excited about it because, you know, me and her delved deep a little bit in our conversation when I interviewed her. And we decided we're going to talk about, am I crazy or is it spirit? Understanding your clairs and mental illness. And she's coming to us with her ability as a mental health practitioner and like psychologist, social worker, everything. I don't know what you do, but, you know, she works with this stuff. And I said, well, there's many people that I've talked to that they don't know if they're hearing voices or is it them or somebody else. So today we're going to talk about that. And we're going to, you know, go a little deep, and she's going to talk about how you guys can realize, you know, is it you or somebody else, basically. So Kim's background is she's a medium. Her development started after her grandmother's passing, and she has a master's degree in social work, worked in private practice as a medical and psychiatric hospital, and founded a holistic healing center called the Centered Self. She studied with international and nationally renowned teachers, Mavis Pitilla, Karissa Eve, Anthony Mrocka, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of people that she's dealt with. I don't know who they are. Spiritual development and a lifelong process, and her goal is to continuously learn and advance. She offers intuitive soul coaching and intensive healing program, psychic mediumship readings, Reiki, soul hypnotherapy, bereavement support and classes, spiritual awareness, mentoring, and teaches mediumship development and Reiki. And she's joining us from Newburyport, Massachusetts, and you can find her on kimconway.com. So welcome, Kim, to the stage.
Thank you so much, Sherry. That was a mouthful. All right, so I'm going to share my screen because I do have a little PowerPoint for you today, and I do have a lot to say. So what I'm going to do is not go through every single thing on this PowerPoint. After this talk, I go right into the playroom. So if you have any questions, we can we'll do that there. So
but don't force yourself. You're still getting your 25 minutes, okay?
Okay, and I am setting my timer because I'm a talker. All right, there we go. So am I crazy or is this spirit? Understanding your clairs and how they differ from hallucinations. And the reason I'm so passionate about this topic is because one of the things that I know you struggle with during an awakening is feeling like you're losing your identity of who you are. Maybe you are hearing or seeing things or feeling things and wondering, what the heck is that? Am I going crazy? How do I know that this is okay? Your relationships are changing. Your beliefs are changing, maybe even your relationship with your religion. So many things start happening that just really disrupt our lives. And what I really want to say to you, and what I hope you leave from after my talk, is feeling secure, that you're not crazy. This is a natural process. Everything that goes on in awakening, all your clairs are natural, okay? I want you to leave with that. And an understanding of how you're maneuvering through this awakening and experiencing your experiences really is related directly to who you are as a person, what your belief systems already were, what your struggles already were, maybe some traumas you've had. All of your life experiences get filtered through your awakening, and then that kind of steers the ship a little bit. So staying a little bit less isolated, reaching out to others, and finding those like-minded people. And the other thing I really want you to leave with is knowing spiritually, we are all exactly where we need to be in our own awakening. Whatever you believe is perfect for you. I'm not here to change your beliefs. I'm just giving you information. Take with you what aligns with you. And I hope that you do that throughout your whole awakening. Just take what resonates with you, because whatever you believe is always perfect for you. So first I'm going to talk about the clairs. Then I'm going to go into a little bit of some myths about our intuitive abilities. And that's important because it kind of affects how we look at our awakening. And I'm going to really just concentrate on our clairaudience today, because there have been studies done on clairaudience and auditory hallucinations. I'm going to compare those to you. I'm going to explain what they are, a little bit about schizophrenia and psychosis so that you understand what it is. So, and then I'm going to talk about the similarities between your clairaudience and auditory hallucinations, because there are some similarities and that's why we get worried, but then also the differences, and the differences are profound and significant and very important, so that you can leave here just feeling like you're okay and knowing, all right, maybe I need a little help in this area of my life. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the clairs, maybe all of you. The clairs are just simply put, they're your intuitive senses. They are the senses of your soul, okay? They are a natural part of every single human being, because every one of us has a soul, and inside our soul are our soul senses, the clairs. So as we awakening, you might be noticing, oh, Kim, I'm feeling a lot. That's your clairsentience. Or I'm seeing images. That's your clairvoyance. I'm hearing things. That's your clairaudience. So these senses, everyone always has. As a matter of fact, as a medium, that's exactly what I'm using to communicate with spirit. And the spirit people, all your loved ones in the spirit world, that's how they're communicating to one another and to us. It's just a natural thing. So we have clairsentience, clear feeling, clairvoyance, clear seeing, claircognizance is clear knowing. That's kind of like when you have a thought, but you know you didn't think it. Clairaudience is clear hearing, clairgustance is clear tasting, and clairaudience is clear smelling. Now, what gets a little hard is in the beginning, it can all feel so much like your own imagination. They do kind of work close together. So as I said, the clairs are your soul senses. They are a natural part of all of us and they reside in your soul. We use these to communicate with the world of spirit when we are working psychically or mediumistically. And spirit uses these clairs to communicate with us. The soul is really the medium, because it is the soul senses doing that communication. So even though I say, hi, I'm Kim, I'm a spiritual medium, it's really my soul doing that work. I am just blending with my soul and allowing it to have that communication that I can share with you. Everyone has all of these clairs, and they can be developed and they can be strengthened. So some myths about the clairs. You have to be born an intuitive. I wonder how many of you believe that. I believed it. My awakening didn't happen until I turned 40. So it's been a while now, but I was 40 years old. And I thought, this isn't mediumship, because you have to be born a medium. So I didn't know what the heck was going on with me. It started with me just talking to my grandmother, having full-on conversations with her. And I thought, well, that's okay. I love her. If you love someone, of course you can talk to them. But then in my psychotherapy practice, I'd be working with a client, especially my clients who are grieving, and suddenly, boom, there's their loved one. Full on, I'm just looking at them. They're talking to me. They're telling me what's going on with my client. They're telling me what to say. Again, what is going on with me? But I didn't think it was mediumship. So it's a myth. This can happen at any time in your life, okay? And it can also happen, you shut it down, it happens again. The clairs and mediumship are a gift. This is a word, the gift, that just is my personal pet peeve, because it's a natural part of ourselves. I don't have anything different than anybody else. We all have these clairs, okay? It's just, is it part of your soul journey and your soul path, your path here as a human being to use them? Is your soul going to ignite and you're going to start using them? That's the difference. Just like some of us are going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a therapist, a mom, a dad, whatever. We all have our journey. They're not a gift, they're natural, they're an ability. And that's why I say you can develop them too, and you can strengthen them. Intuitives have something special that other people do not have. Nope, again, we're all the same. Mediumship cannot be taught. Yes, it can. Again, there's a spectrum, right? There's going to be people who can just have an awareness of spirit and have little communications and maybe snatching little bits of information. And then you're going to have a medium like Mavis Pitilla or Tony Stockwell or Andy Bing that are going to blow the roof off with the amount of evidence that they're going to get. It's just like everything else in life. There's degrees of expertise. Clairaudience, that's your hearing. That's what we're focusing on today, is like speaking to spirit on the telephone. Not really. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you're hearing and it feels like you're hearing with your physical ears, but more likely your clairaudience is kind of like if you just take a moment now, think of a song and play it in your head. That's what your clairaudience is like, right? You can hear that song, but nobody's playing it. It's most likely that it's like that. Not everyone has all the clairs. That's a myth. Everyone has all the clairs. Not everyone develops all the clairs, right? But everyone has them. A mediumship reading should be 100% correct. Nope. I'll tell you why. Because the spirit people, their memory is crystal sharp clear. As humans, our memories are not. So there's something called sitter amnesia. So if you're already doing a little mediumship and sometimes that sitter's saying, no, that's wrong, trust the spirit world, trust the spirit world. It should be about 85% correct. Intuitive work is evil, is not evil. Anything coming from your soul is love, compassion, kindness. So your clairaudience, again, I said it already, this is clear hearing, receiving information through hearing, objectively hearing with your human ears. That's a little more rare, but it can be done. And subjectively, it's like hearing in your imagination. Okay, so how does this compare to a mental health diagnosis, a more serious diagnosis? All right, so I just took schizophrenia because that's what most people kind of go to in their awakening. They worry about that. And unfortunately, a lot of psychic mediums have been misdiagnosed with schizophrenia. And that is something I'm really passionate about, trying to educate the world of mental health, trying to educate the world of mediumship, because I think if we come together and work together, we could do amazing things. So schizophrenia is just a mental disorder with disturbances in thought, perception, and behavior. And these statistics are meant to help you, all right? The prevalence in the population of schizophrenia is less than 1%. And the population of the world will be diagnosed, okay? Only 3.5% will be diagnosed with psychosis, compared to 50% of the world population saying they've had an intuitive or spiritual experience or an experience with a loved one that is deceased. And I think that's even greater, greater than that. So statistically speaking, most likely everybody's okay. All right. Then there's an age of onset for these diagnoses. For men, it's mostly in the early 20s, the first break. For females, it's later 20s, early 30s, compared to a spiritual awakening, which can happen at any time in your life from the time you're born. You know, you can be 99 and have a spiritual awakening. All right. So, and then the risk factors are not as important on what I'm talking about today, but always reach out if you're not feeling safe. Always reach out. Your safety is the most important thing. The other thing that's important to know about schizophrenia are just what are the symptoms besides like hearing or seeing things, right? All of these symptoms that you can see on your screen here, emotional symptoms, different behaviors, impairment at work, not taking care of the self, not bathing, not just saying you didn't bathe for 1 or 2 days, but not bathing for weeks on end, disturbed sleep, depressive mood, a lot of anxiety. All these things that you see here need to occur continuously for 6 months before we can even consider this diagnosis. All right. So yeah, does anyone here have disturbed sleep? I do, but once in a while I get some good sleep, right? Do you ever have an anxious day? or a few weeks, or you're going through a stressor, but I'm talking about you have to have these symptoms continuously for 6 months. Okay, so today, hallucinations. We're not going to really talk too much about delusions. We're going to concentrate on hallucinations. There are actually more than just these two types of hallucinations, but this is what's important for a spiritual awakening: the auditory hallucinations and the visual. Auditory hallucinations are by far the most common. As a matter of fact, when I worked in the psychiatric hospital, I met thousands of patients with psychosis, with hallucinations. I can only remember a couple that were having visual hallucinations. So that's seeing things that are not there, okay? So think about that with your clairvoyance if you're starting to see things in your mind or outside of your mind. It's actually very rare. And of those visual hallucinations, nobody was like, I'm seeing a person. I'm seeing my grandma. Okay, it's very different than that. The auditory hallucinations are very common, the most common type of hallucination. Okay, they can be multiple voices, whispering, murmuring. They might seem very angry, urgent, demanding, and they're disturbing to the person that is having them. So that is an important thing for you to take away today. All right, so auditory hallucinations, they're very real to the person who's having them, and that person cannot distinguish if they're real people or it's in their mind. Does that sound a little different than your clairaudience, I wonder? You kind of know, right? It can be someone that the person knows, a nondescript voice. It is very rare. It's from a person who is deceased, a person that is passed. That's also different, isn't it, from your clairaudience? It can be one voice or many. They're more commanding in nature, meaning they're telling the person what to do, and they're usually telling the person to do something very unsafe, okay? They're criticizing, they're negative, and they negatively impact the person's confidence and self-esteem. And I know a lot of us have a lot of negative self-talk, but you can turn that off, can't you? People who are born deaf can develop auditory hallucinations. So it has nothing to do with your physical hearing. They are persecutory, abusive, insulting, they cause suffering, and that person cannot stop them. They can't turn them on and off like a faucet, okay? The only way they stop is with the correct medication, okay? The person cannot control them. They can prevent the person from activities of daily living, and that's like really bathing and taking care of themselves. We're not going to focus too much on delusions today. Those are beliefs that conflict with reality, despite when everyone is telling you it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. Okay, here are some myths. The person has a split personality. Nope, that's a whole other diagnosis, really not related to spiritual awakenings. Violence is common. So somebody with psychosis or schizophrenia is going to be violent. Nope, it's very uncommon actually. I was never afraid of a schizophrenic patient when I was working in the hospital. Truly loved them, okay? They're more likely to be victims of violence. The person can't maintain a job. Not true. Stabilized, they can maintain a job. The person can seem normal one moment and change into another person the next. No, maybe in the movies, that's it. That's not real life. It usually requires long-term hospitalization. No, again, sometimes short-term hospitalization, like acute, and then back out into the community, back into their job, stabilized. Bad parenting always gets a rap. Bad parenting has nothing to do with it. Okay, so here's the good stuff, all right? What are the similarities between your clairaudience and your spiritual awakening and auditory hallucinations? Clear speech, you can hear it clearly, right? The volume is similar, comes from perceiving like inside yourself or outside the self. The distance is perceived similar. It can be one voice or it can be a few. The voices speak to you or to one another. They can speak in the first, second, or third person. They might be words, sentences, conversations, and the person listens and speaks to the voices. We do, right? When you're doing your psychic work, your mediumship work, you are doing that. So here's the really important part for today, the differences. First thing I want to say to you about your awakening, spirit is all love. Your soul is all love. Everything will come through, filtered through love, all right? Always kind, always compassionate. Auditory hallucinations, they're very negative and punitive, okay? And I'm going to address, after I go through this, an example of experiencing something in your awakening, like it's feeling really negative and a little hurtful and harmful to you, yet it's not mental illness. And I'm going to give an example of that. So auditory hallucinations, they can't be induced by will, but your clairaudience can, right? As a medium, I turn on and off my mediumship like a faucet. I'm not always connected to spirit. I mindfully connect to spirit and connect to my soul. So I'm in control of it. And you can be taught to be in control of it. I know a lot of people don't feel like they're in control of it, especially in the beginning, but it absolutely is something you're in charge of. Auditory hallucinations will negatively affect your safety. Clairaudience will positively affect your safety because it's going to come from a place of pure love. Auditory hallucinations are bothersome. They cause distress. Clairaudience, especially once you understand it, won't cause you any distress. Auditory hallucinations are perceived from a negative source because they're punitive, and clairaudience is perceived from a positive source, like your loved ones in spirit, your spirit guides, your soul. For auditory hallucinations, it's very low percentage will someone say it's a deceased person. Whereas your clairaudience for mediumship, it's always somebody in the world of spirit. The source, self. Clairaudience, no, outside yourself, somebody talking to you. Auditory hallucination, it occurs constantly. It can't be turned on and off. Clairaudience, you're going to turn it on and off, so it's episodic. Auditory hallucination can be sounds, murmuring. Clairaudience is typically words, but I know sometimes we get music and things like that. Auditory hallucinations, the person is passively receiving. They're not involved in it. They can't control it. Your clairaudience, it's sought out. You're in control. Even if you don't feel like you're in control yet, you can learn that, okay? Let's see, why is my screen not working? Let's see. Okay, so in conclusion, I'm gonna tell, if I have time, all right. I'm going to come out of my share. The clairs are a natural part of the soul. This is your takeaway. They're not a gift, they are natural. Anything that's naturally part of you is okay and is safe, okay? Auditory hallucinations are an imbalance in the brain and are only resolved with medication, okay? The clairs will speak with love. The auditory hallucinations will be punitive. Clairaudience is controlled by the person. Auditory hallucinations are not controlled by anything but medication. Clairaudience is communication with the deceased in the world of spirit, and auditory hallucinations do not come from a perceived loved person. So I have just 2 minutes, and I just wanted to say a little example of, I think a question that some people have is, well, wait, Kim, you're saying it's all love and kindness, but I felt something like one time that felt really negative. I felt like I was in danger, or I was hearing things that really were upsetting to me. And here's where it's get really murky. And I think this is where the world of mental health makes mistakes and misdiagnoses people who are not sick, okay? We all have our own experiences, our own belief system, our own trauma experiences. So everything that occurs to us gets filtered through that. And then we perceive it by our own filter. And a beautiful example, a true story of this is by Mavis Pitilla. She's a world-class medium over in Brittain. She tells a story of a town pool in her town, and they called her to come as a medium because they said there was an evil spirit working all the machinery of the pool. And that was underground. They bring her underground, and there's all this clanking, all this stuff going on. It was spooking everybody. People didn't want to come to the pool anymore. There was an evil spirit there, evil spirit. So Mavis she goes down there, and all that clanking and everything happens. And it kind of even spooks her, even though she doesn't believe in that. She's not sure what to do. She goes back upstairs, and she goes and she sits out by the pools. And she's sitting there, and she sees this man, a spirit man. So she starts talking to him. The pool was closed. It was only the two of them. And she says, "Are you the one making all this noise and scaring everybody?" And he says, "Yeah." She goes, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "Because at the kiddie pool, the teenage boys aren't watching the children. They're watching the pretty girls at the big adult pool. And something's going to happen. Someone's going to get hurt. One of those little kids is going to get hurt. And I died by drowning, and I don't want to see that happen to anyone. They need to switch the lifeguards around and put the teenage boy lifeguards at the big pool." So anyway, long story short, she told them, and they changed that. My timer just went off. My time is out. But everyone perceived it as evil. How would you have perceived that? I think I would have been spooked too. But when she talked to the spirit person and understood he was just trying to get a message through, the world of spirit is always trying to communicate with us. And it's so hard for them because we're so closed off and we miss most of everything. So that's just one example of how you can perceive something being negative when actually, again, it is love. So your takeaway, anything involving psychosis is going to be punitive, negative, and you won't be able to stop it, okay? Anything involving your awakening, you're eventually going to learn how to control. You're going to eventually understand it's coming from a place of love and compassion. So that is my talk to you today. It is really my passion to help and support people through their awakening. I do mentoring. You can see me today to have like a quick session and ask me any burning questions that you have, or have a little psychic reading. And I did put in the chat, it's probably way scrolled up, that I'm honoring my prices today. If you book today, you can go on my website, kimconway.com, and just go to the Healers Network service and book for a discounted rate for this week. Anyway, it was so beautiful to see you all. And I don't know if Sherry is back, but I think what we have to do is pick our number. Correct, Sherry? Let's see. I think she's here, but not here. Okay. Well, since she's not here yet, we do have to do the number, but I can't do that without her. Does anybody just have anything that they want to ask me? Or would you like to hear another story of misperceived evil? Because I feel like for a lot of people that helps them. So just raise your hand if you have a question. The mechanical hand is right down the bottom under reactions. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking until Sherry says, "All right, I'm here. We're going to pick the number." All right. Another true story. You can read about it. You can go right online and actually read about this one. It's by the Fox sisters, who were the pioneers of spiritualism. They lived in upstate New York in the 1800s, and they lived in this little house. There were 4 of them. And they started, oh, Sherry, I was telling another story till you got here and we could pick the number, but I see that you're here now. And they kept hearing all this banging, knocking. And you've probably heard stories like this, like people hearing banging and knocking in their homes. They weren't afraid. For whatever reason, they were not afraid. They started knocking back and started developing a code with this spirit person. And what they found out was he had been murdered and buried like under the foundation of this house. And he just wanted someone to know and just remove him and give him a proper burial. This is a true story. You can Google it. Google the Fox sisters. You can read about them. And I'm giving a very shortened version. But again, how would you have perceived if you heard all that knocking and banging in your house? Probably scary, right? Probably a little evil. There's usually an explanation. If it is from spirit, if it's from your soul, your clairs, your awakening, there's going to be a beautiful explanation. All right. Lots of love to all of you. And Sherry, are we picking numbers now?
Yes, please put your number on the chat from 0 to 100, and Kim, write your number down. Sorry, I had to
I
run
have
out
my
to
number.
the bathroom
Very
for a moment.
excited.
Yeah, put your number from 0 to 100. You can only win one prize a day. So if you haven't won a prize, put 0 to 100, and you're going to win a session with her. And her session is going to be 60-minute mentoring session valued at $175. And coming up next, we have Juliana Rose, and I'll introduce her in a moment. And then you can follow Kim over to the Playroom for an experience. And after Juliana Rose, we have Shafali, and then the speed readings. So it's only 3:45. We got so many more hours to go. If you're joining us anywhere from whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, this is where the action is. This is where the Playroom experiences are, the reduced show prices, the free readings, as well as the door prizes. So come on, join us. So put your number in the chat. Who wants to win a session with Kim? And we'll do a 5, 4. Put your number in the chat if you haven't won a session yet. Put your number in the chat from 0 to 100. You have to be here present to win. Okay. Kim. Oh goodness, look, I don't know where the numbers begin. What time did they begin? 88. All right. So what time did you start collecting the numbers? At 3:43? Yeah, so let's look. 77. 77. Joanne Miller. Joanne Miller. She's a winner. Congratulations, Joanne. Follow her to room number 1, everybody, to have an experience for the next 30 minutes. And then we have Ms. Juliana Rose coming on. Thank you, Kim, for joining us. I'm glad you had a